A very warm welcome here to our end of show press conference. It has been a busy show, and I'm very happy to welcome now with you Airbus President and CEO Fabrice Bregier and our Chief Operating Officer Customers John Leahy. And may I please ask the photographers to get seated? There will be plenty of other photo opportunities during the event. Okay. Fabrice, over to you.
Thank you, Stefan. Good morning, everybody. I hope you appreciate the hospitality here in this EDS chalet. I'm sorry that it's a bit overpacked this morning. Thanks for joining us. We are not at the end of the show, but we are getting close to it. And I would like to tell you that I discovered that air shows are like wedding. When it's raining, we are getting lucky. So you will see with John's presentation that we got 466 orders and commitments, which is an excellent air show, especially after already 517 firm orders booked by the air show. I'm also very pleased that we have performed the first flight of the A350 just before this air show, and at the end of the presentation you will see a short movie of this very emotional moment. John, hand over to you.
Thank you, Fabrice. Now, if I could just ask the photographers, I'm not that tall, so if you could. Okay. Well, as Fabrice said, with the rain, it brought us some very good luck. We do apparently own the sky here. And if I can just summarize, I think the week started out with Doric, who some of you said, who's Doric? Well, as I told you, Doric is the third largest wide-body lessor in the world and the 11th largest lessor in the world by asset value, a financial institution that has already financed 18 A380s around the world, is now getting into the speculative leasing business in a partnership with us. We then talked about the A350 program. And one thing I'd like to reference, because some of you have actually put out some tables and try to keep track of what's been happening at the show. To tell you the truth, a lot of those numbers aren't right. Let me show you what they are, and we'll actually have hard copy of this after the fact. So going into the show, at the end of May, the XWB had 293 orders, if you add in the 18 for British Airways. Our colleagues in Seattle, for the Dash 8 and Dash 9, over the last 5 years, we're talking about now, had 73 orders. So that's one of the reasons why they had to bring out a new product called the Dash 10. Anyway, we didn't stay at that level of the 293. We announced on Wednesday the order for 25 A350-900s with Air France and KLM. Then we also announced the Singapore deal for 30 A350-900s, plus options, which we don't count in our order book, we don't count as commitments, but there are 20 options that could become 350-1000s. We've got the value conveniently located there for you as well. Then we have Sri Lanka. That was Wednesday, 6 A330-300s and 4 A350-900s. Remember, at the press conference, they also said that they'd be leasing 3 additional A350s. We don't count that. That'll come through our lessors in the marketplace. Then this morning, only about 10 minutes ago, we announced, or actually United announced it, and we confirmed 10 incremental A350-1000s, but also if you read the press release, they're converting their 25 A350-900s to 25 A350-1000s. So there's an up conversion plus 10 incremental A350-1000s and a deal valued at $4.4 billion US. So if we put all this together, we see some interesting numbers. So we have that 293 up there. We add 69 A350s for us at the air show. Now, some of you were a little bit confused, so was I, until I looked at the fine print with our colleagues in Seattle about their 102 787-10s. Well, there were 102, but 10 of the United airplanes are just conversions from Dash 9s to Dash 10s. They're not incremental, so you can't count them as an incremental 787. And the 12 that they announced about British Airways are, again, conversions of Dash 9 into Dash 10. So those are 22 aircraft that are just conversions of Dash 9s from the backlog into Dash 10s in the backlog. We don't count those ourselves as incremental airplanes. I don't think anybody should. So if you put all that together, in the last 5 years now, the last 5 years, that's ancient times in our industry, but we're rather proud of the fact that we're still outselling them by over 2 to 1. With all those announcements on the Dash 10, the A350 is outselling the 787 family, including the Dash 10, by 2 to 1. In fact, for your convenience, we put a little pie chart up there. It's actually a camembert for 70% market share for us. And what about the 330? The 330 is selling extremely well in the last 5 years again, comparing it to just the Dash 8 and Dash 9, which is where it competes. It's not big enough to compete directly with the Dash 10. Look at that number. It's like 4 to 1. 330s outselling 787 family. If you want to add back in the Dash 10, it would be about almost 3 to 1. 330s in the last 5 years outselling the 787 family. So we're pretty happy with our wide-body market share position, so I'd really appreciate it if you didn't hit that sort of function key on your computers where it says Boeing, whose dominant position in the wide-body market is now challenged by Airbus, blah, blah, blah. For the last 5 years, that's, recent history, I'd say. Look at, these are the sales. Look at the sales. In terms of A380s, 75, A350s, 362, A330s, 385. If you look at Boeing, 787s, the 168, 167, 777s, 355. And these are PAX airplanes. I got to admit, these are only passenger airplanes, but we're outselling them in the wide-body market for the last 5 years by a nice margin. You say, well, what about all their freighters they sold to the U.S. government and the rest? Okay, add freighters back in and give them another 100 airplanes, and it'll be 700 on the Boeing side. So here we are, 820 to about 700 for them. Wide-body sales for the last 5 years, including what happened at the air show. Please don't, you're ruining my reputation. Please don't say that Boeing dominates the wide-body market. It's not true. Okay, then we moved to sharklets in the A320. We delivered the A320 with sharklets to Air New Zealand. They were very proud of that. Sharklets are now flying with 22 airlines around the world. Our retrofit program is on hold for the time being. We're having trouble making that business case work. But for new build aircraft, the sharklets are very popular. We can't actually build the sharkleted versions fast enough. ILFC on Monday, as you recall, ordered 50 A320neos worth $5 billion US. Lufthansa ordered 100 aircraft. It had been announced previously, but this was the purchase agreement, legally binding contract being signed on Monday, worth $10.4 billion US. Then EasyJet announced on Tuesday morning a deal for 100 A320neos, 35 COs. That is a purchase agreement, but it is subject, of course, to their shareholder approval in the next 3 weeks. And you can read in the press that's ongoing as we speak. An airline in North Africa, in Tunisia, ordered Sphinx, ordered 6 A320neos. That's rather an MOU for 3 COs and 3 neos. And then Spirit, just this morning, we announced it right at 11 o'clock, 20 A321 COs and a deal worth $2.3 billion, plus 10 A320s in their backlog, upgraded to 321s. We don't count that as an incremental order, for heaven's sakes. It's just a conversion of one type to another. Hong Kong Aviation Capital Group out of Hong Kong, a leasing company, ordered the A320neo, 60 orders, 40 A320neos and 20 A321neos for a value of 6.4. That's an MOU, which we're turning into a purchase agreement shortly. And if we summarize where we are on the Neo versus the Max, thank you very much. We're sitting at 60% of the market, like we said we would. And if you take all these commitments together, It's about the same, slightly more, at about 61 to 62%. But look at the numbers. We've got about double the number of customers out there. Yes, we're outselling them almost 2 to 1 in the marketplace, but look, we've got double the number of customers. This is an airplane that's being very, very broadly accepted across the market, and they're struggling, quite frankly, to catch up. Putting it all together then, here's the air show for us. 88 COs. Go compare how many of their NGs they sold. 88 COs, 283 NEOs, 6 A330s, 59 A350-900s and 10 A350-1000s. Again, I'm not counting all the up conversions and the rest, just the incremental deals for 69 incremental A350s, 20 incremental A380s, 466 new sales and commitments worth $69 billion US. Now I hand things back over to Fabrice.
Okay, John, thanks for the very good job. It also means we have very good products.
I would like to think so. They sell themselves. Wait a minute. Let me reconsider that.
Well,
I
don't want to try that only. Well, now, so you know we had a first very successful flight of a 350 last Friday. We, at that time, had opened the low altitude flight domain and up to 20,000 feet. We had another one yesterday afternoon after having checked everything from the first flight. It lasted a little bit more than 5 hours. And we have opened the globality of the flight domain. We flew up to 42,000 feet at the max speed, which is 0.89 Mach. And I got the report yesterday evening from the test crew. Everything went very well. They even did it in a shorter time than expected. And they had even time to have 2 takeoffs and landing in Toulouse because they didn't want to leave this airplane. So you will see a movie I didn't see, a small film, which is about the second flight. So as we have been very successful with the 2 first flights, it doesn't mean the flight test campaign is over. You know, it's about 2,500 flight hours altogether, based on 5 different versions of a 350, but it's a very good start. And we expect to fly past the air show tomorrow, probably around 1 p.m., perhaps a bit before, a bit after, depending on the discussions still pending with the air show authorities. But you are welcome around lunchtime to look in the air. It will not be a flight demo, of course, but the aircraft will be visible for those who, like you, love the aerospace business. Thank you very much, and let's go to the movie right now.
The second flight was amazing. It went extremely well. We had, as compared to the first flight where we saturated the altitude at 25,000 feet, although we explored the full span of what we call the airspeed, up to maximum authorized airspeed, say 40 knots. We went up to almost the highest altitude allowed on this airplane. We reached 42,000 feet, yes. And we also went to the maximum Mach number of this airplane, which is 0.89. And we have cleared the envelope all over the place, both in direct low and in normal low, which is the normal way to fly the airplane. The direct low being the one to explore this envelope so that you are in direct touch with the airplane with nothing masking whatever could happen during the flight. And after we cleared with the landing configuration that were cleared at first flight, we engaged the normal low, the sophisticated low, the one providing the protection. And after clearing somewhat the high angle of attack in direct low, we engaged the normal low, and we just seated on the maximum angle of attack, you know, the one that everybody is amazed with when we are flying at Le Bourget. So we did that in that airplane. This is second flight. And after, because we were in the mood, satisfied with. We came down, cleared the second landing configuration in direct low, and after we made 2 circuits to clear the 2 landing configuration in normal low.
It's a lovely handling airplane from the pilot's perspective. We need to do a performance flight later this week, so hopefully we can combine that with a flyby at the Bourget. There's no problem for that now.
So now we are going to Le Bourget.
Very good. Thank you. And now we are open for your questions. First question, please. Oh. Tim.
Thank you. Tim Heifer from Reuters. Now that you've done high speed and high altitude testing on the second flight, I realize it's not the main purpose of the second flight, but did that give you any preliminary indication about fuel performance, which you are able to feed straight into John's sales campaigns? And second question on that plane, how much does it weigh compared to what you would like it to weigh? And I had a third question on production, if I could come back.